So today he will speak on a topic that he is most passionate about, the role of youth in development. So Ambassador, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ari, for that very kind introduction. And let me just first introduce some of my embassy staff who are here. Can you rise up? Heru, Rizal. Okay, this is good. And also, I want to introduce my children who are here from Indonesia. Can you rise up, please? Good. And when I say my children, I really do mean biological. Biological. They're all my children. They look like me too, I think. Please. And Mark, thank you. And you make me nervous when you hear Mark. Mark is the man who handles Indonesia. And thank you very much. Every time I see him, he's at Big One, right? Which I went there 2 days ago. Good. And I don't know who put up that photo. Well, it's actually sometimes I try to put on an older looking face because in Washington I have a hard time convincing people that I'm actually the ambassador of Indonesia. There are just so many stories that I have to tell people twice or 3 times that I actually am the ambassador. Remember last night at Budak Manurum at my own embassy, I was trying to find a seat. And then people who attended this book launch said, no, get lost. I didn't want to say, look, I'm the ambassador of this place. It was quite funny, actually. So, but the one thing about this photo is, you know, I like the fact that the youth think I'm their ambassador. I mean, usually the ambassador to the United States is someone who is at the end of his career. In Deplo, he's been ambassador several times. But one thing that I feel good about being in Washington is the young people see me as, you know, their ambassador. And what I tell them is, look, in this day of age, you know, success, you look around, success is getting younger. You know, my father used to tell me that, look, son, you save up, blah, 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 and then you will get your own house by the time you're 60, or you will become ambassador by the time you're 58 or 50. You know, he used to say that because that's the time that he lived in. But now, you know, you live in a time when President Obama is in his was in mid-40s. Mark Zuckerberg is the most famous CEO in the world, and you can achieve what your father, grandfather achieved midlife way before that, right? So success is getting younger, and I hope you know that. And my claim to fame is I'm actually I started my career at the embassy, where I'm now ambassador, and this is not a joke, as a dishwasher, right? This is in 1980, I worked there at the basement, there was a kitchen, and I washed dishes there, and I never thought I would be able to be ambassador, to return to that embassy as ambassador. And no, I did not marry the president's daughter. So look, this is a very passionate, important theme for me, the youth issue. And I do believe that the young people, our generation today, not just the Indonesian young generation, but globally, I do believe that we can potentially be the best generation ever. Now, why do I say that? It's because if you look at, especially for Indonesians, if you look back in our history, we are the most free. Yeah, we are the most democratic. No previous Indonesians had ever been living in a democratic state as we have. We are the most open. We are the most egalitarian. Remember the time when women couldn't even go to school in our country? We are the most emancipated. We are the most documented, you know, with all your digital gadgets and iPhone and so on. We're the most connected. We're the most opportunity, and we're also the most exposed, right? So potentially, we have all these things that no previous generations had. right? And I think that's true not just for Indonesians, but also for other nations as well. And also, we are a different generation now, and this goes especially more true for you because, uh, for me, the Vietnam War still meant something to me. I remember living through that time. I remember reading about Watergate. I remember the Cold War very clearly. I was, uh, you know, asking my dad, "Look, what's gonna happen to our country?" Blah 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 blah. But those things, the Berlin Wall, the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Vietnam War, these things are not part of your conscience. You know, you don't remember these things. You don't experience these things, and these things don't shape your worldview. Right? You're a different generation. You have less baggage historically and politically. And one thing that you should also appreciate is living in a multicultural world. Now, I see my children. My children has gone to school in America, and his best friends that come to our house are black, and the others are Chinese or Japanese. And what I noticed about them, they're totally color blind. And this is something, to be honest, that my generation did not have. I had to struggle to overcome that. I think my generation still suffered a little bit from some colonial, legacy, right? And there was a time that we suffered from some inferiority complex, especially towards the West, and so on and so on. And we had to really overcome the racial hurdles in Indonesia and how we engage the world. But now it's very different. I think one of the most, if you ask me what is the one thing that changed America the most since 1979, I would say is the fact of how truly multicultural America has become. In the 70s, you go to State Department is basically Caucasian male dominated, right? And everybody was same last name, same type of last name, and so on and so on. But now, the head of the Indonesia desk is a Korean guy. Everybody's married to different ethnic groups, and so on and so on. Everything is just so multicultural, right? And this is the world that we live in. You go to the UN, you go to most cosmopolitan cities around the world. That's the environment that you live in, and you should see it as an asset and don't take it for granted. And also, the world is much more meritocratic. It's not fully meritocratic, but it's much more meritocratic than before. Skill is the best currency. It's not the US dollar, it's not the Japanese yen or Chinese yuan, but your skill is your best currency. If you go to multinationals and universities, you can be assured, and including the World Bank, those who reach the top are those not necessarily who have, it doesn't matter what religion or what passport you have, but what kind of skills you have. That determines your social and career mobility. So it's an environment that is very different for you to function, and you should welcome that and don't take it for granted. And what is special, I think, about this age, I know different people call this age with so many names, and I think we are yet to arrive at a consensus. Is it the participatory age, the age of possibility, the age of this and that? Yes, but I think what is special about this age is the role of the individual. And I would even call this the age of the individual. Now, this is significant because, yes, the individual has always been important, right? But today, the individual is not just a name, not even just a vote, not just a consumer, not just an ID card, right? The individual today is a voice and also a force, right? The things that the individual can do with the tech tools and technology at his hand is really remarkable. If you ask me what is the most remarkable speech I have heard while in Washington, D.C., you would think it's President Obama. No. He's probably number 2, way up there, of course, but the number 1 best speech I've ever heard was by a 9-year-old black kid in Aspen. There was a conference of Young Presidents Organization, and this kid was telling his story, and I'm like, why am I going to go see? I'm 47. What am I going to listen to a 6-year-old? So I went to this conference, a big plenary forum, 900 people, and this kid emerged with a tie that was and a suit that was way bigger than his size. And he told the story that at age 5, his father gave him money, and then rather than buying toys, he gave that money to a homeless, and he felt good about it. And then he got more money, and he gave it to more homeless people. And then he became addicted to it because he made him feel so good. So he organized a campaign, personal campaign, to rally his family, friends, neighbors, and community. And by the time he reached 8, this 9-year-old black kid had already launched a movement that fed 1,800 homeless people. One individual, right? Amazing, right? And you heard the story of the lady, the English teacher lady who taught English in Mexico and then found obsession with banning landmines, right? And she started a campaign from her basement, email campaign. And by the end of her campaign, she was able to forge an international treaty banning landmines, almost single-handedly, just by using email alone. Something that governments could not do, something that 180 governments could not do, but this one lady could do, right? So again, the power of the individual is really, truly amazing. And if you sell yourself short, if you underestimate yourself, that is the biggest waste of all. If a dishwasher from the embassy of basement can become ambassador, if Argentine basketball team can beat the American basketball team in the Olympics, hey, you can do as well. But what this means, if you live in the age of individual, is that change now is a lot more bottom up than before. You know, people say, hey, change is top down. It's probably true, but with millions of talent, millions of people with skills and dreams and hopes and know-how and connectivity and networking, change is a lot more bottom up than top down. And this is something that most governments do not understand. And the second thing is change is going to happen a lot faster than before. You know, Indonesia, as Arif said, achieved our independence. You know how many people? Probably no less than a few dozen young people who got exposed to the crazy idea of independence and freedom and emancipation. And then people say, hey, I like that idea. You know, I don't like this oppression stuff, this colonial stuff. And they woke up a whole nation and they delivered Indonesia, right? But if a small group of young people can make such big change in 1945 and change the political map by launching independent movements, can you imagine what millions of young people can do when they do act independently or in concert to produce change? So there'll be a lot more change. Somebody said that in the next 10 years, there'll be more change than in the last 100 years. And I believe that, you know? And we should be ready for that kind of fast-paced, dizzying world, but not just follow it. You have to know what is your place, your position in that kind of fast-changing world. And the most important thing in this age of the individual is that the youth will have a key role. Why is this? Because the youth are much more tech-savvy, much more, it's in your DNA to use mobile phones, email, Twitter, Facebook, and so on. You know, it's what the youth is all about. You know, in Indonesia, you can see this because we are now the second largest Facebook users in the world, and we're third largest for Twitter, and so on and so on. Right? So I think the youth will play a key role in how this age of individual develops in our world. So you have a special place, you live in a special time, you have special hope, and you can redefine yourself. But the reality is, surprisingly, as I look around in Indonesia, and also in the United States and other places that I've seen, the youth is also experiencing some mindset issues, right? Some disconnect, right? I noticed in Indonesia, for example, that the youth, some of our young people are becoming more conservative, more ultra-nationalistic, more fundamentalist, more resistant to change. Some are more clamoring towards the time of the past, the authoritarian days of the past. And I'm wondering about that because I said to them, look, you're going the wrong way. You should go that way, not backward, What's going on? I don't understand it, to be honest. I don't know how to explain it, but that phenomenon is there. Some pockets of the youth find more comfort in resisting change and in becoming more conservative. Secondly, more youth are becoming cynical. This is also true in Indonesia. Perhaps this including cynical towards government and also just cynical towards everything, right? Again, I don't know what this is a phenomenon of, but I encounter this quite a lot. And what I worry about, in my experience as a diplomat, cynical people never achieve anything. I keep reminding the young people that you may be smart, but if you are just cynical about everything, about new ideas, if you put down everything, if you let negative energy control you, you're not going to achieve much, right? And it's hard for me to make this stick sometimes when I talk to the young people in Indonesia. And there's still a lot more young people who are stuck with the past, carrying historical baggage, which I believe they should not carry anymore. My dad carried that historical baggage. My grandfather carried that historical baggage. But they should not carry that baggage. My dad could blame the Japanese colonialism, the Dutch colonialism for 300 years, the imperialism. My grandfather had even more right to blame the past for his shortcomings, for the nation's shortcomings. But we don't. We're already 5 generations after independence. We don't have the luxury to blame the past anymore. If we fail, it's because we cannot change. It's because we don't have the solutions. Right? So these are some of the things that I think the youth should address and fix if they want to reclaim the 21st century. What should the youth be? Well, happily, I think they should be confident, right? And I noticed there's a great report by an organization in France called, I don't speak French. Anybody speaks French? I'm going to try it. It's Le Fondation Politique, something like that, right? But those are the 2 words. And they did a survey of youth around the world. And the Chinese, Americans, Indian, Japanese, Brazilians, and so on. It's very interesting. It's one of the most interesting reports I've seen. They found that 92% of Chinese love globalization. Not just like or don't mind, they love globalization and they see it as an opportunity. And 89% of Indians see globalization as an opportunity and as a source of national strength. Surprisingly, in America, it's a bit lower. It's, I think, about mid-70s, 76 or 77. My American friends can tell me if this is right or wrong. But they don't have Indonesia, but one of the lowest was Greece, right? But it just struck me that you would not see this 4 or 5 decades ago, right? 4 or 5 decades ago, the young people in India, in China would say, close the borders. The world is not an opportunity. And our nationalism is not compatible with our internationalism, so on and so on, right? But this confidence among the youth in emerging nations, I think, is one of the most important social and political trends of the 21st century. And if you ask me, why are these emerging powers growing so strongly, so confidently, it's because the youth are becoming much more confident and able to leave the historical baggage. Secondly, and so I can also point in Indonesia, despite the fact that Indonesians may not like the government, may not like the parliament, and I think our parliament has, at the present, low popularity. 85% of Indonesians believe they're on the right track, and they believe in the system. Right? That is the best asset that we can ever have. And when I was at the World Economic Forum recently, last year, I shared a cab with a Peruvian tycoon who said that 10 years ago, most Peruvians wanted to leave the country because of the shining path, terrorism, and so on, economic mismanagement. But now, 70% of them feel proud to be Peruvian and wanted to stay the country. So again, this kind of confidence in many different places is becoming an important part of growth and progress. Another second thing is to be open-minded. You know, I'm so disappointed sometimes when I go to pockets of universities in Indonesia. I still see people who are just very close-minded and very dogmatic, right? And the rule in the 21st century, I tell you this now. I tell you, you'll save time from hearing this. If you're dogmatic and ideological, you're not going to have success, right? So you may be successful in the 20th century or 19th century by being dogmatic and ideological. In the 21st century, if you're dogmatic, it's not prescription for success, right? I go to campuses in Indonesia and the youth go, we are anti-colonialism, we're anti-imperialism, we're anti-capitalism. It's not because they believe it. We're anti-neoliberalism, you know that, right? It's not because they believe it. They don't even know what these terms mean, but they're just fashionable, right? And they feed on each other, you know, by using these jargons. They're romantic, they sound great, right? But once they graduate and they go out to the real world, you know, the world looks quite different. And the longer you hold on to this dogmatic view, the more you're going to be able to be diverted from real decisions or entrepreneurial spirit that will make you reach opportunities and make something of yourself, right? So being open-minded is very important for the youth. And to be honest, this is not a new prescription. At every generation in Indonesia that succeeded, the one that declared Indonesia's national unity in 1928, the one that declared Indonesia's independence in 1945, every great generation, they started because there's a group of people who were open-minded. They saw the sign of the time, they seized it, and they make something out of it. So being open-minded is a perennial quality that you must always have. And also being forward-looking. I keep speaking about being losing the historical baggage. And believe me, you know, it's like driving. When you drive, you have two mirrors. One is the large mirror where you look front, and the other is the small mirror where you look to the back, right? If you drive and you look at the small mirror that looks to the back all the time, you're gonna crash, right? Right? You gotta focus on the front and use the small mirror to aid you in moving forward. So being forward-looking is extremely important. And being a diplomat, this is what I feel too. You know, because half the things that we have achieved as in diplomacy would not be achieved if we kept being backward-looking. And this is what, if America wants to redefine its relationship with China, and if China wants to redefine its relationship with Japan, and with ASEAN, and so on, we gotta be forward-looking and not backward-looking. And the other thing is you cannot be afraid of change, right? Now, you know, this is one thing that our previous generations have over us. My dad's generation, my grandfather's generations, they want to change. And it's easy. You know what? They were oppressed. They were colonized. They were exploited. And it's easy to want to change when you're under such duress. But once you find yourself in a comfort zone, an economy of 6.5%, the 18th largest economy in the world, prosperity, the largest middle class in Southeast Asia, your instinct is to say, change, we'll see. You know, we're happy where we are. And that's the danger, not just for Indonesia, but also for, including America. The moment you find yourself too comfortable in the comfort zone, you begin to resist change, right? You begin to lose your grip and your competitiveness, and other nations pass you by, right? Remember, Cambodia was the most prosperous country in Southeast Asia a while ago. Lebanon was seen as the Switzerland of the Middle East, remember, right? So, but you know, the moment you lose, you make the wrong decisions, or you find yourself too comfortable in a comfort zone, then you're in trouble. And the other thing is also to entertain positive, what I would call positive creativity. It's not just creativity, but positive creativity. Now you know what I mean, the Indonesians in this room. What I mean is, in Indonesia, I'm just amazed and astonished and apa kagum tuh, uh, yeah, yeah, amazed at how creative Indonesians can be, but for bad things. You know, credit card fraud, internet, whatever, It's just at times, every time I read the paper, that is so creative, but it's negative creativity. There was one recently that I like particularly, they found widespread innovative cheating on the national exams among Indonesian students, right? Great innovation, creativity, but negative creativity. Now the point is, how do you change that type of creativity to the other side, to positive creativity? If you find that, then I think you'll be a great generation. And the one thing you should remember is this. We had a good discussion with Kavita about this, and Samantha. Samantha said that in Russia they said that you can't change. You need 2 or 3 generations to change, right? That's what your friend said. I disagree. Now we live in a time that you can achieve change in 1 generation. 1 generation. One of the most remarkable experience I had was when I visited Shenzhen in China. I visited there, and it was an amazing story. About 3 or 4 decades ago, this was just a fishing village of, what is it, 20,000, 50,000 people, I don't remember the exact number. After just 2 or 3 decades, they opened up, they infused with capital and technology and foreign investment and so on. Now it's one of the best economies in China, a bustling cosmopolitan city of something like 20 million people, right? It's unrecognizable, right? In just 1 generation, right? Bosnia, it was a basket case when I was posted in London, right? It was a conflict zone, right? I thought they just lost a generation, right? But now, not 20 years after, within that, Bosnia has emerged to be a stable democracy with good prospects. So has Cambodia, where they had the worst genocide, which killed over 1 million people. And I remember going there in 1991, and I said, how is this place ever going to build? And with Cambodia now, despite its problem, is a functioning society with good economy and stable democracy. But as much as you can change in 1 generation, you can also ruin it all in 1 generation. You have bad leadership, bad governance, bad civil society, bad elections. You can slide from stability to decay, right? If you let corruption take root in society, rather than fighting it, you let it expand, then you will reach not political development, but political decay. So the point is, you can achieve change in 1 generation. Look at Emirates, look at Qatar, right? What have they changed in just 1 generation? Look at Chile, right? Look at Norway, look at Finland, look at Singapore, look at Malaysia, look at Brunei, right? I hope look at Indonesia, right? And all these things, right? Look at India, look at China, right? But again, you can ruin it in 1 generation. So again, I've spoken for too long, but I want to say thank you. Be forward-looking, project positive energy, be open-minded, be nationalistic, but be internationalistic at the same time. Do not attempt to fight your nationalism with your internationalism, and be confident, because everybody else is, right? Thank you very much.